Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine Games series and also our Crazy Leela series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we are having a look at a Leela Rook Odds game, and it's another lightning style attack where you really think, well, if I can do this without the Rook on A1, just think what I could do with the Rook on A1. Very interesting system that Leela plays. Let's have a look how it went. So it was D4, Knight F6, C4, G6, H4. And this is actually a main line with the rook on a1. The idea is to dissuade the Grunfeld simply. If d5, we'll take on d5, knight takes d5, and then we're ready to play h5 immediately, which is quite awkward. After bishop g7, we play knight c3 now. And if d5, we can go h5 again. And if knight takes h5, then c takes d5. Had a number of lines like this in from Crazy Leela, actually. And yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a video out there showing all the gorgeous little things that that Leela found in that. Black played it quite carefully, played the move d6, so going back to King's Indian style. And Leela played e3. Now maybe Castle's a little bit incautious, maybe, knowing how Leela plays, because Leela played the move h5. So I'm not 100% sure how Leela would have played against knight takes h5. Another exchange sacrifice on h5, who knows? Maybe also g4, knight f6, g5, with the idea of, obviously if the knight retreats, then you can get at the h file. And if you go knight h5, you've maybe got a bishop e2, or even maybe even a bishop d3. We're covering f5. The g pawn covers f6, so we're kind of threatening rook takes h5 now. Could be quite serious. So black played c5, which is quite sensible. Leela played bishop e2, just to hold the h pawn. And now black did something quite sensible there, took on d4 and played d5. It's the typical thing, meeting a wing counter with action in the centre, as we've seen, doesn't always work quite as easily as all that. But in this case, black's opening up the centre. C takes d4 is giving you a target. You're going to play d takes c4 afterwards, and then you're going to be able to attack d4. And whilst Leela's trying to get something on the king side, you're going to be trying to get to the centre. And the nice thing is if you crash through the centre, you'll be threatening things like exchanging off queens and stuff like that. So it's pretty decent. I was watching this. I was quite intrigued as to how Leela was going to carry this on. What Leela played was h takes g6, h takes g6, f takes g6 is possible as well. In principle, h takes g6 should just be a good move. It just makes you a little bit nervous, obviously, because the h file is completely open. So you just have to get rid of that bishop and then get the queen in. But it's not as easy as it seems somehow. If you played a move like bishop h6, we could just take and go king g7 and rook h8, and absolutely nothing has come of that. So white's got to take a little bit more time. And Leela played the move bishop g5. And after d takes c4, quite a sensible Grunfeld move here, by the way, would have been knight e4, just to attack that one. And after knight e4, you go d takes e4. And a little bit tricky for white to defend that d4 pawn. But yeah, d takes c4 is a reasonable move. And then queen d2 from Leela. So, it's pretty crude. It's just bishop h6 and bishop g7 and queen h6 that's happening. But, well, it's a 5 minutes plus 3 blitz game. These things are always challenging. Black played the move knight c6, which is a good start. Just hitting this pawn on d4, obviously looking to play queen d4. So Leela played knight f3, bishop g4, and this is where the engines start to disagree slightly. They came up with quite an ingenious move that I hadn't thought of at all, never seen actually. Knight g4. Pardon me. So the idea is that the knight is covering the h6 square, and you're also attacking the pawn on d4 here. So if you go d5, then the idea was to go queen b6, hit the pawn on f2, and well, the engines thought that castles was necessary, and then you go rook d8, and well, what's happened there is that white's been forced away from exploiting the h file, so that can't be bad at all. Well, one coughing fit later, we're back. So this knight g4 is quite nice actually, but bishop g4 that was played by black is very, very natural. It's the normal move. And Leela played the move bishop h6. So we're just looking to play bishop h6 quickly and queen h6. And black reacted in the best way, and it's a way that's allowed by putting the bishop on g4. Played the move knight h5 here, so just blocking the h file, and the bishop on g4 covers the knight on h5, so there's no rook h5s for the moment. So okay, Leela played the move d5. So just getting out of the pressure that the bishop, knight, and queen were combining on against the pawn on d4. d5, attacking the knight on c6. Not quite sure whether you're really threatening to take it yet, because it would just lead to the exchange of queens. But the engines didn't have anything better than what black played, which was knight b4, which was fine. But now Leela starts really shaking things up. Played the move bishop g7. Now, if knight g7 looks wrong, of course, but maybe you want to just stop the video and see what the win is here. It's quite a nice simple win. It's rook h8 check actually, takes queen h6, here knight g5, and yeah, you can't stop it. You can give a few checks, but the end result is going to be something like this. So that's very, very nice indeed. So black took with g7, and I was kind of wondering, well, what on earth is white going to do here? I don't particularly see anything, but Leela came up with this move knight h4, which is tremendously ingenious. So just trying to get that bishop exchanged, and yeah, also ready to bring the queen into g5 and get the knight into f5 somehow. Number of possibilities here. Knight d3 check was what the engines were looking at, Stockfish in particular. Takes a little bit of calculation. I mean, you go queen g5 to hit the knight on g4, and then Stockfish wanted to go queen b6, hitting b2 and f2, and after king c1 go queen f2, and well, you're going to start getting some things to exchange off the queens with queen f4 here, for example. So that knight d3 check was probably going to be quite awkward for white. Black took on e2, which looks like, you know, by far the most natural. But there's this lovely little Zwischenzug, knight f5 check, and suddenly things are getting quite tricky for black here. Not lost yet by any means, but possibilities of losing exist now. I mean, obviously, if gf5, we just go check, king h7, and queen e2, and we're just going to take on h5 after and give mate. So that's completely impossible. You could move your king to g8. That is actually possible. It looks very, very scary, but you can sort of check like this and get yourself back together, and then even take that knight after. It's amazing when you're an engine. You give it f6 an escape square, and you should be good to go there. I'm sure Leela will still cause some problems, but in principle, you're surviving. Black actually played the #1 engine move, so the very best move, which is great, but it's really risky. It played the move king f6. So only Leela plays the next move, which is king takes e2, which is just keeping everything, you know, in reserve calmly, and then just putting the onus on black to do something. And here black has black's best line here is a really clever trick, in actual fact. Very easy to miss. But the best move is to go knight takes d5. It looks crazy, but after knight d5, you can just go queen d5, because queen d5 allows knight f4 check. That would have been pretty clear, really. You know, I mean, well, you can do all sorts of funny checks somehow, but I think, you know, for example, after knight e4, we can just play king takes f5 and queen g5. There's king there. You know, again, Leela will cause some trouble, but you know, in principle, you're all right. Well, black played a very natural g takes f5, still minus 2.37, but after this move, obviously, you know, it's getting rather fraught. I was watching it. I didn't really see what black should be doing best. The move that black played was the move that I thought as well at that speed was the best move. He played rook g8 in order to cover the g5 square. The best move actually was to play the move King E5 and just try and run for the hills with King D6 over to the queen side. It's very, very risky, but it's still apparently very good for black. Um, I mean, for example, if you go Rook H6, cutting off the king, then you go E6, and you should be able to get back somehow. But yeah, I mean, it's really asking a lot of a human player. Rook G8 is actually 0.00, so we're back after Queen F4. It's equality again, and black needs to be very precise here. It's actually rather difficult to spot it, to be honest. Um, the point is, White's got so many threats here. I mean, Queen F5 check, Rook F5 check, and you've also got threats on the G file as well. And with this move Queen F4, you might have noticed as well that the move Knight E4 check is coming in. So what Black really needs to do is to play Rook G6 to give the king a little bit of a house on G7. It seems that this is not actually too dangerous. It seems that Black can get away with this. Yeah, I mean, just not quite enough pieces, I think, to mate White there. And Rook H7. I was looking at this during the game, and I wasn't really sure quite what I should be doing. That Rook G5 is one idea, just giving the king an escape square on the G6 somehow. So the best line there would be a draw by repetition. You could also get a nice draw by repetition with knight takes d5, knight e4, and knight c5, which I thought was rather lovely as well. So all sorts of draws by repetition there, but yeah, this move rook g6 you had to find, and yeah, it cost a lot of effort. Black played e6, and white played d6, and this is winning now. The problem is that yeah, black doesn't have any sort of escape squares now for his king. E6 is taken by his pawn, and E7 is controlled by the pawn on D6. So that's getting to be rather difficult now. So Rook G6 was played, sensible move, trying to bring the king back, but then Rook H7, cutting it off. And well, we've got a rather big threat here that well, either black missed or black just didn't know what to do about it. E5 was the move I was looking at. I couldn't refute it, just looking at the game quickly like that. But the best move apparently is to go Queen H4 check. If King E6, then Queen C4. That's very unpleasant. King D6, Knight B5 check, and then afterwards we're going to take on F7 here. Queen F7 check, checkmate. And after Rook G5, what Leela wanted to do was go Rook H6, King G7. And now there's a couple of ideas. This is actually the obvious line, bringing the knight into play and then threatening Rook H7 and stuff. That's going to be quite powerful too. What Stockfish came up with was the move G3, which really emphasizes how paralyzed the black forces are. I mean, there's just no way those pieces can move, basically. Yeah, I mean, the idea is, of course, if black goes back with knight c6, then we just go knight d5. And something like rook c8, the engines wanted to play f4 takes, rook h7 check, and then g takes f4. And, well, you're going to win this pawn, this rook rather, and then the king's too open and isn't going to survive. Still, relatively complicated, and the white king looks a little bit open, but it just turns out simply that yeah, that it's just all too much for black to handle. Yeah, quite yeah. I mean, still very, very complicated, that line. What black did was Queen B6, and that allowed the gorgeous checkmate Knight E4. Where, yeah, I mean, it's really incredibly efficient. White started with a rook less, but all of his pieces have worked together in order to take squares away from the black king and just box it up halfway up the board there. Really a gorgeous game, and yeah, I mean, just the attacking elan that Leela had, just the sheer power of it really was really impressive. And as I said, watching those games live, you get that sort of the ooh and the ah and the oh, can't he, and that isn't going to happen, is it? That sort of feeling somehow. It really really makes it incredibly exciting to watch because the play is quite amazing. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that one. I've done this one as a little bonus because I, by accident, scheduled two on the same day yesterday. But never mind. Hope this one. Hope you enjoy this one too, and hope to see you in the next videos. Thanks for watching.